Welcome to the Masters in Motion podcast. We have a great episode today with Rick and Bob Ruano, a 6-time CrossFit Games Masters athlete. Hope you enjoy the episode. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, to click the like and subscribe button and give us a quick review on the podcast app that you're listening to as well. It helps spread the word about the Masters in Motion podcast. Enjoy the show. All right, guys, we're here and we've got Bob Ruano and Rick Stevenson. We're super stoked to have you, Bob, on the show today. Welcome to the Masters of Motion podcast.
I appreciate the nod here tonight, fellas. And on a Valentine's Day, I kind of feel special. I got to be honest.
Yes. We asked, you accepted.
That's right.
We like that.
Happy Valentine's Day, fellas. It's a big day.
Yes, absolutely. No breaking CrossFit news, so we thought we'd get together and have a good conversation with Bob. I personally call him Mr. Consistency because if you paid attention to the leaderboard, games leaderboard over the last, and I'm going to go back, let's see, all the way back to 2015.
2015?
2015. Bob is perennially there. A high-level competitor, has been to not only Carson, but Madison a total of 6 times. And I think really the only thing that interrupts his trips to the games are COVID and 2020, where there were no games for age groups. So
in 2022, I had I wasn't going to be able to do it anyway. I tore my lat. I tore my humerus, and so for 3 or 4 months, I couldn't do a pull-up. And the body is an amazing thing. So without a lat attachment, you think, well, how can you? My pec actually started taking over the work, and so you adapt and you go on. But so I was going to be able to do it anyway. So I'll take the asterisk.
With 2020, there were no games. We're good to go. But Bob, thank you for joining us tonight. Again, we'd just like to have everybody learn a little bit about you. Maybe what got you started, but even before that, how athletic were you growing up? Where are you from originally? Just tell us a little bit about Bob pre-CrossFit.
I'll make the boring stuff really quick. Originally from Pittsburgh, PA, and as far as like athletic wise, I participated in a lot of different sports like baseball and wrestling and lacrosse and gymnastics. And that was really kind of the separated from me. That's kind of what's helped me along the way, is having that background. So in 2013, I was scrolling through TV with a clicker. Remember, we used to have clickers, and I still call it that. I age myself.
And your kids remind you.
That's right. They're like, the what? Like the clicker. Anyway, and so 2013, I saw like Spieler and these guys doing this CrossFit thing, and it was in Carson, and it just looked like a lot of fun. I don't know. I growing up, I always liked the challenges, like stupid challenges too. Besides hey, let's see if we can carry this log 6 miles through these West Virginia trails or whatever it was, dumb thing. Or I remember one spring break we drove from Pittsburgh to Daytona Beach. Why my parents let me drive at 16 years old to Daytona? Anyway, and so the challenge was, let's crank up the heater in the car and see who. I had a little Toyota 2i4 pickup truck, the crank windows. We rolled up the windows, and whoever had to tap out first, then they bought McDonald's wherever we stopped to eat. Like 3 hours.
Mental challenges, physical challenge,
just physical challenge. That's a little mental challenge too. But so when I saw CrossFit, I'm like, that looks like a lot of different challenging things. And didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what a thruster was or a snatch was. And so I just went to the CrossFit main site and poured through all those Kalipa videos. And learned the movements and started putting some equipment together in my backyard. And, the gymnastics stuff came pretty easy. But learning the bar, I was always like a bro split gym rat kind of guy, chest and tries, back and bis, shoulders, and then something would happen where I'd always skip legs, and that was it. So once I started learning things, and what was I? I was like 43 or 44 at the time, and then um, and then I think that's about the time where they expanded the Masters program,
Right. Right.
uh, age group wise. And so yeah, I jumped in, and somehow or other in 2015, I made it there, and I was shocked, absolutely shocked. That was going to be like a once in a lifetime thing. And
Yeah.
I remember standing in line in Carson in check-in, and I had Ron Ortiz standing in front of me.
Oh no,
He was a
here we go.
monster of a man,
Yep.
and then Ron Matthews behind me,
Sure.
another
Yeah.
large.
So
And
here
I'm
you
like,
are.
what am I doing here? And but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, that was the beginning of it.
I'm trying to think.
So you swam in the ocean in Carson as a
So
Masters athlete.
the Masters did not swim.
Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Got it.
no, not swim.
That has always scared me. I've thought open water swimming, which I had to learn for Madison.
Yeah,
But just to think like in the ocean, like, no, I'm
when
out.
it's in
I'll
the
just take
ocean,
it.
freezing, but you're into the freezing water stuff.
I'm fine with
Yeah.
it now, but
Very cool, very cool.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
so that was
so
the first taste of it, and then after that, I remember who was I speaking with? Maybe it was Grendler, and he was and I was like, ah, man, there was a lot of fun, competing, and
mhm,
but it was nice. I didn't have any pressure. I was just glad to be there. And he said, "That's great." He goes, "But the pressure's going to come next season." I'm like, what do you mean? He's like,
bingo.
"Now you've been there, you're going to feel immense pressure to get back there." And it's like,
Correct.
ah, no, no, no. Sure enough, that's right. Exactly right. As you guys know.
Yes. Yes. Sadly. But so you've been one of those few that have been fortunate to compete at both venues. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I know Carson was, maybe you were a little awestruck for the moment
For
being
sure.
there. And then as you became more familiar with Madison, you kind of had a routine down and you
Absolutely.
um, different age groups and things like that. But
Hmm.
can you tell us anything that you remember distinctly about competing there at Carson? Because you had, I can't remember all the workouts that year, but I mean, I'm sure they worked the berm run into it, or you were in the
Yeah.
stadium a
So
lot, if I
it,
recall.
yeah, I don't recall. I can't recall different workouts. I just know they're all pretty grueling. But
Crappy and
the venue itself in Carson was really cool. Like I remember that first time, kind of walking out of that tunnel because we competed on the out in the stadium,
mhm,
and yeah, you felt like a gladiator. I mean, it was just the coolest thing. And so I enjoyed that. Not so. I didn't really enjoy traveling around Los Angeles.
right.
If you want to go get a bite to eat, or if for dinner at night, you're in the car for an hour each way. You travel what 4 or 5 miles. I mean, it was nice. We got a car accident, so it was that was mess, and that's what I really appreciate about Madison was just the people, the food. It was beautiful up there.
Yeah, and Bob Jennings, made that mention or brought that point up, Jason. Remember just last week, he's like, when the games were in Los Angeles, it was just a small event in a very big city, and unless you were there for CrossFit, you
Yeah,
didn't know what was going on, and it's what, second largest city in the country.
yeah,
I mean, it just gets lost in the
yeah.
activities. So when
Sure.
you get to a venue that is welcoming, smaller and
Yeah,
welcoming to what we're trying to do, I think it can be a better experience for
yeah.
the athletes, the fans, the volunteers,
Well, I'll tell you,
everybody.
I've run the gamut of emotions this past season. So after last year, you know what, I was done. So
Okay.
I went in. I had like this, a really bad knee thing going on, and I kind of hobbled in there. And I was telling you, Rick, I know you ran through the workouts
Oh
with the H
yes.
prior, and you're like, oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. That was an ass thumping, and
I
after
didn't run a
that,
5K though to test it like you guys did.
after that, you know what? I think maybe it's time. Like to do something else. And then when I heard, okay, well, they're going to split up the age groups and the open divisions.
Mhm.
I was like, well, that's my sign. That's it.
Okay.
I feel good about my decision. And then they come out with, you know what? We are going to do the games, the Masters games, at the end of the summer because I was concerned it was going to stay in that November, December, which
Hmm.
that's tough for me to travel. It's probably tough for a lot of people to travel.
Yeah.
And and then they brought out teams,
Hmm.
and that changed it. That to me sounds like next level fun. It really does. So I am all about it now. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
that night I got a call from a couple different guys. Like, what are your thoughts?
See.
Like, God, I was thinking about taking this year off, but this makes it very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I had some more team experience this summer, and I think Jason was able to see how much fun I was having. I had a little FOMO watching him compete individually, but I'm
Yeah,
wondering what his thoughts were watching me have so much fun.
yeah,
On the team side, they were very different events, and it was not at the games or anything like that. But to us, they were big events, and it was higher level competition, and it was wonderful to work with somebody else, another couple people, or just another individual. And
yeah,
there's just something about shared suffering.
yeah. No,
So
like you said, that's very motivating to me.
correct,
So I can let myself down all the time. But you don't want to let somebody else down. And that's the motivator. That's the motivator for
exactly,
me.
exactly.
And there's something about the team experience where you share the burden. You win, you share it. You lose, you
Yeah.
share it. It's
Uh,
it's not this solo individual soul crushing thing. Although letting your team down has an element to it, so you don't want to do that. But if your team doesn't win the 5K run while we're holding a rope together, there's nothing you can do about that. It is what it is.
yeah.
But you share that experience. And
Yeah.
who doesn't love the interval style of teamwork? I think that's really fun. I am excited to do my first team event. I'm planning on doing it at Wadapalooza, California, after the game. So it'll be later in September. I'm thinking about going out there and doing a team event. Just one to I've got a couple of guys that asked me to do it, and I was like, yes, I would
Yeah.
love to do it with you guys, and I would love to have that experience and have that a
You
little
need
bit
to
of a pressure
experience.
valve relief.
Yep.
Yeah, I have no expectations. I don't plan on winning the team event in Huntington Beach. We'll go out there, we'll have a great time. Maybe we win. If we don't, it doesn't matter. Where like when I'm at the
Those guys
games,
ask you for a reason.
I know
Exactly, Bob. Yeah, you heard that.
they need an
Yeah.
old good guy, and so I'm the
Yeah, you're
old
like
good
got a
guy.
sandbag on
Who can we ask? Okay, all right. I got a name. You want to ask him?
Hey, but I did see that the teams go from like 45 to 54. And
Mhm.
so this year, I'm 54. So I don't know. I really this would probably be like a down season, but I'm excited to see how it plays out and yeah, keep my
Well,
foot in it for sure.
Well, see, and I think that's part of the excitement that we're just a couple of weeks away from the Open.
Hmm.
We can't do any of these things without doing the Open, and it's a great community event. We know
Yeah.
that it's where,
Yeah.
we all have connections back to gyms now, and I think
Mhm.
it's going to be an important first step, and we're looking forward to it.
I think I do. I think it's looking back now, I think it's brilliant.
Mhm.
Yes.
Maybe there were like a certain percentage, or like it's just going to be a different experience now,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and now kind of dangling that carrot, like yes, you're right. You've got to register for the Open, and then you've got to
You got to
register
do
for the
quarterfinals. Yep.
qualifier. And yeah, and
Yep.
listening to your interview with Bob, talking about that's important to them to make the event happen
Hmm.
too.
Yep.
So
Yep. We're planning on it.
I appreciate that transparency of it.
I agreed with the brilliant comment when the announcement came out officially on Instagram. The first thing I did is pick up my phone and send Bob a message saying, "Team event, well done, like
Yeah,
brilliant."
yeah,
It's just so smart because it gives that opportunity for participation. You've got that many more athletes. You also have that many more people congregating at an event like this to be, I
yeah.
mean, just a huge, big show, a big event, lots of spectators, lots of people can travel in and do that. And I mean, I heard Joe on the Masters Chatter podcast. I listen to all the podcasts. So, whatever it is, I'm going to listen. We've got our podcast. I'm going to listen to everything else I can get my hands on.
Yeah.
And, they have three massive uh, uh, event areas in the convention center. It's all going to be in one big area, but 3 different floors that can run huge amounts of people or large amounts of people.
20 lanes each or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like they're going to easily hit their 250 volunteer number as well, even with just an early speculation on being able to get. I think they're going to put on a pretty epic experience. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the whole thing. And Bob, I would hate to have seen you, what hang up your gloves. Is that the right phrase? Hang up your shoes, whatever it is.
Hang up your shoes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, man. No.
Well, Bob, it's one thing when you said you had a little bit of a gymnastics background, and that certainly has helped you with a lot of, body weight movements and, body awareness. But you've been remarkably consistent in a lot of either go back to the old age group qualifier or AGOQ.
Yeah.
Or now the quarterfinals and semifinals type of track that we're on. And you don't have to look far down the leaderboard to find your name. So what have you, from an Olympic lifting standpoint, capacity, something you found that has worked for you the last 8+ years? Tell us a little bit about that.
I would say it's definitely not balanced. I think if you're looking at those kind of the three elements, right, that we need to work with, endurance, strength, and skill. The skill I feel comfortable with, and like the new movements. I hope you see some of these. Like I love the wall walks and the reverse handstand push-ups, and a little more of the handstand walking elements. I mean, it's fun. It's circus tricks, right?
Party tricks.
But along the way, I still feel like my strength is, the birthdays are creeping up, and so the weights are slowly moving, maybe still a little bit in the positive direction, not much. So I feel like my weakness has always been like the engine, the endurance. I know, I see that. Thank you very much.
Interesting.
That's the way I feel about it. Like
okay.
I am like super critical, I guess, about myself, and my wife says, although she's my biggest fan, she's also my harshest critic. And, she calls me out, it's like, you're walking from the barbell to the rope. Who does this? What are you thinking? And, I give her my CrossFit calculus, prior to each event. So here's what I'm going to do time wise, where I should be. You guys do that, by the way?
Of course. Yeah. You got to map it out. Strategize, call your shot. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. And then like, okay, I'm starting to lose time. I need to go to plan B. And so we kind of work through that. I find it entertaining to do. I don't know, and see if I can hold that. But it's again, there's always something to work on, right? I think it's like any other sport, like golf. You never master it. You can get better at it, but you'll never.
You never master it. No, because now we're all running up against Father Time. That's the. But again, so is everybody else in our age groups. That's the thing.
No, you're right. You're right. I've definitely found for me, it's a dosage issue, right? Like I used to go out and do these 2-hour workouts and then come back later in the day, hit something else, and just constantly pushing and pushing and pushing. And then things started breaking and herniating and tearing. And, finally, so with my knee last year, he had 2 meniscus tears, and the MRI tech was like, Dr. Bob, this is your 14th MRI. Really? They said, yeah, we would totally think you're a hypochondriac if not for every time we scanned you, we found something broken, herniated, torn, ruptured. I'm like, thanks, I think.
Do you have a punch card?
I got a punch card, yeah.
Okay,
yeah, it's
right.
my free one last time. Yeah.
14 MRIs. Jeez.
Yeah, with the very first one it was in 2014, June of 2014, I ruptured my Achilles. We were doing like a warm up. It was just like 3 burpees into a 20-meter sprint and repeats. And I came up really low and hot out of a burpee. And as soon as I pushed off, snap. Oh, that was brutal. Oof. Yeah, so that was 2014. So I thought 2015 Open and all that was done. And it was interesting. I couldn't do any any squatting, for 3 months anyway. And but I could do a whole lot of handstand push-ups and a whole lot of ring muscle ups, and
That's
um,
where.
you know, and a whole lot of chest arc pulls. And in the open and the qualifier, it was all about those movements. So I like to think that that book,
Well,
The Obstacle is the Way. I kind of like to think that because of that Achilles injury, I had to double down on what I could do, and it paid dividends in that following season. So yeah,
well, the good ones are able to really navigate through whatever is thrown our way. Doesn't
yeah,
matter the competition or anything like that. But
yeah,
if by chance it's a year where something plays to your strengths, that's when you have to take
yeah,
advantage of it. And
yep, for sure.
we're talking to the people that like to compete. I mean, it's not just the community in the gym for
Mhm.
fitness, for the best hour of your day. We're looking at it from the critical competition standpoint.
Yeah.
So I like that.
So how about you guys? What's the season looking like coming up?
Jason, you wanna? Oh,
I muted myself
cough
because I
1
was
second.
holding in a little cough. I was just trying not to cough, and I muted myself. I mean, the season is good. I'm super excited for the season. I'm ready for the Open to start. I'm in that sort of place now where,
Yeah.
like, even in training, I'm still pushing myself quite a bit, and I'm not looking to peak in the Open, not even peak in quarterfinals, but make sure I'm fairly peaked by semifinals, and then of course run it up for the games, and take
Mhm.
some risks. That's where we take some risks in training, building up to the games,
Yeah.
balancing like high level of training
How
and
old,
don't
how
get
old are you right
injured.
now?
48.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm on the upper
48. Okay.
half.
All right. So you got 40 and 40. Yeah.
Yes,
All
yeah, I got
right.
2
That's
more years
great.
in this division.
That's
It's
great, old man.
it's a
Right.
hard division, and the guys coming up are not. No one's easy. No, it's never easy. So there's no
Yeah.
guarantees ever. But
Yeah.
I'm in that place now where when it gets really heavy on squats or on snatches or something like that, percentage wise, I have that nagging little thought in my head like, don't get
Yeah.
injured. It's not the time to get injured. Now, that doesn't mean
I
it's not
know.
time to be aggressive and like go for some things, but I'm just trying to, and I always sometimes I get
Right.
a little mental,
Yeah.
like just, I don't want to get injured 2 weeks before the Open. So as soon as the Open is over, we got a little time, and then quarterfinals. And then we do the same thing for semifinals. Uh, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Right.
the plan. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what the new
Does it
Open
ever
is going to
cross
look
your
like.
mind? That Castro did lay out. I mean,
Ooh,
I loved his announcements. And
I wish
did
he
they
would do
mention
do
are
them
they going to
so
bring
much.
that back at all?
I don't know if he's going to do them this year. I
Right.
I would love
Really?
to have him. I mean,
That was the
he's the
best.
villain.
That was bad.
Yes,
He was so like just awkward and but funny. And
De-
I don't know. I just enjoyed it.
devious. Yeah, and then you get that
Yes,
cold sweat as soon as he tells you what it's going to be, and
love
you
it.
watch the high level athletes, the elites,
Yeah,
just burn the house down, and then you're left going, "Well, mine's not going to look anything like
I,
that." I
I,
mean,
I
Well,
think
I'm
that's a
always do
draw. And if they,
yeah.
yeah. And I always think to myself, I watch them do it. I'm like, well, it doesn't look that hard. It can't, I don't know, Vellner and Fikowski, they didn't, yeah, and it's always
yeah. Well,
terrible.
and I 24.3. I heard that Jason here, he might be making an appearance at the announcement. So we'll see.
I mean,
They have had age groups before. Remember that? Yes.
Oh, have
Remember
I
they?
wish,
they had Sean Ramirez go against a teenager in one of the open
Oh, I do remember
announcements.
that. You're
Yep.
right.
Hmm.
You're right.
man,
Yep.
wouldn't it be
That
really
was
cool if they
I
did
forget the year.
something like that? It would be amazing. I'll tell you
I
this. They have not contacted me yet. So there's not much time now. We need to coordinate something if we're going to do it
but
this year.
But I think that would be a good draw. Again, showing that, hey, it's still
Correct.
CrossFit. The age groups, the
Hmm.
open, the mat, it's still all one thing. So
It
I
would
think
be,
that's the way to do it. Okay. You know these people. Get on the
Yep.
horn with them. Let's go.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would love to just reach out to Dave. It's too late. There's Dave already planned all this stuff out, but if that's how you create unity in the future, like the games aren't just the individual athletes. We have 4 different versions, right? Now we have the games, we have adaptive, we have teenagers, we have masters. We have 4. And how cool would it be for one open announcement to have all 4 show up there?
It makes, makes absolute sense.
Yeah. So even though everything's separate at your venues and your time, but this is where we come together.
So Rick, let me ask you, because Jason, I follow you, and I mean, you're constantly working on your craft. It's super impressive, and I mean, that's why you're on the top of the podium every year. And I feel like, and maybe you can give me some coaching. So I feel like I can do enough to get there, but I can't do anything once I'm there. I think my best finish is like 4, and then my wife will tell me, "Well, you don't run enough. You don't do this." and maybe that's probably the case, but I feel like I've got to have a job too, and I've got
absolutely
5 kids, and it's a lot.
It is. The advice. Here's the advice. This is what you got to be.
Let's hear it.
You got to be unbalanced.
Don't tell anyone. You're just telling me.
Don't tell anyone. Right? No, it's just for you. This is just for you. We're not even going to share this episode. This is just for you. Especially during that games training season, life is unbalanced. I am working early. Yeah. I'm working late. My family is. They know that 6 to 8 week training period leading up to the games is significant. It's 2 sessions a day, 2+ hours per session. And yes, I'm running, and yes, I'm rowing, and yes, I'm lifting. I am
swimming.
I'm swimming. I am over prepared for the games by the time I get there. And honestly, the week before the games, I'm tired. I'm done. Like I'm,
deload basically the whole week.
Yeah, I will. I'll deload for about 4 or 5 days, more like 4 days before the start of the game. So it's like there's actually a deload that happens. I get say 5 days out, starts to deload, take a day off, and then the day before the games, I start to ramp back up again because my best training day is often Tuesday. On Mondays, I feel a little brittle, right? So I kind of work in the gears again after taking Sunday off, and on Tuesday in training is when I'm like, okay, I might be a little sore from Monday, but I feel probably my best on Tuesdays. And so that's kind of how I like to go into a 4-day competition with a little bit of work done the day before and then start the competition. And I generally end up getting better and better. The more days we have, the better I perform to a certain extent. Right. But the preparation is, that's really it. I over prepare for the games. I have so much left in the tank when the games are over. And if I get beat at the games, someone's just bigger, stronger, faster. That's it. That's how it goes. Yeah. But if you gave me a 5th day at the games, I'm good to go. A 6th day, I'm good. Within reason. That's I don't know. So I think that's it. It's I do everything I can to get there and make sure all the bases are covered. Mm-hmm. And then it's a couple weeks off or a couple weeks kind of light after semifinals, and then murderous training. It's not sustainable level of training until the games. And just don't get hurt.
But you have to stay healthy through that period too.
Yes.
Because as you're talking about those big sessions for consistent period of time, that's a lot of volume and it's a lot of stress on the system.
Yep.
One of these seasons, maybe next season,
50,
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
55.
Yeah, and it is at 55,
59, and the king of the hill up there is Kevin. Great guy.
It's his year to come back next year, right?
That's guy who I get right.
Every odd year.
Like the Los Salas and the
Los Salas coming up.
They want to beat Jason.
Yeah.
Well, Los Salas is turning 50 this year. So how do you beat Kevin Coaster? How do you beat a guy like that? He is so strong. He's so ridiculous. He's so fit.
You're not going to look. You're not going to find a weakness to beat him on. Your strengths just have to be great.
You just got to, and you got to beat him. You got to beat him on the events that you can. and be really close on the events that you can't, right? Like you're not going to beat him on some gymnastics. Right. He's just so good at that stuff. His ability to suffer. But if you get heavy, you better get him by a few points, a few people in between. And then hope for the right events. In the first year that I went to the games, or the first year I got third place. The second year I won, and I actually was like, I wonder if I won because the events were all Jason events. And they kind of were, they kind of weren't, but it's still a good year. And then in 2021, after the COVID year, I was like, well, let's see. And then I won. I felt a little more validated, like I can do all these things. And then 2022, whatever you throw in my direction, I'm going to do that. And 2023 was again like, okay, I'm 47. If I don't win, I'll live and I'll celebrate with whoever does win. And it just happened to be like, okay, I've still got this. But sometimes it does come down to like the right events.
I think what you're describing that's a mindset change,
right.
And I didn't get that. You come in there, like, you feel a little bit of like an imposter syndrome, right? Like, and that's the way I felt. Like, what am I doing here? I lucked in,
Yes.
And but then, once there's a repetition taking place, and it's repeatable, like it can't be. You've got to be the deal.
Yes.
So, and then that carries you for sure.
Well, and when you walk in there, especially Jason, the first time, I was going to say, when you walk in there the first time, they put your ranking on your number. When I walked in there in 2018, my number was 413. That means I qualified in 13th place as a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the 404 and the 403 and the 401 thinking, these people are gods. I'm never catching these guys. So
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And those that have the one on them have that bullseye. And
yes,
that's.
I had that. I had that once. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
You won the qualifier.
Yep.
I won the qualifier.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got that all over your.
I got that 501.
Jason, you were talking about how give you another day. Just keep increasing the workload. Bob, I think what you've seen all different variations of games. You've seen 3-day games. You've seen games that end on the weekends. You've seen
20 man participants to
even a day off in between, right? Didn't you guys do something in one of those years, like 2018 or 20?
Gosh,
I think there was a day off. I mean, I was just curious what your how you like to, when you get to a high level competition like that, or like Wadapalooza, how you like to go.
And that was kind of an ass kicker though too. But I haven't done Wadapalooza. I did it twice, and had a great time. Both years. I finished second both years too. So I couldn't finish that one off either. But hey, there's still years ahead. But yeah, it seemed like Wadapalooza was always like very physical from the event. But it reminded me of last year's games. Last year's games was, like I said, to me, it was like ass kicking. Like I had so much FOMO watching you in 22.
Yeah.
Parallel bars and
yep.
Gosh,
that was so
a lot of fun. That took that particular year when there was a tricep rupture, 2 bicep ruptures.
Correct. And
that's 30% of the field. We're gone.
We lost. We ended up with just finishing with 6. I mean, and I'll share a funny story. As we were lined up for the final event, which again has some good and bad memories for me for it. But we lined up for the final event, and Chris Exaros, if you remember, Chris,
yeah.
I think he was the one who looked around and he was like, okay, guys, they're going to drug test 5 of us. So who's the one that's left out of this group? I mean, it got to be such a small field. We'd look at the ladies lined up across in the corral across from us, and they had, I think they might have finished with 9, but for the most of the weekend, they had all 10 there.
Yeah.
They just kept looking at us going, what are you guys doing? Where is everybody? What's happening to you? So, and a lot of Jason's age groups have all finished for the most part, healthy. So it was an odd occurrence, and I think it hurt the competition in that when Bob and Joe said we're going to expand the field. I don't think that waters it down. I use that phrase, the cream rises to the top. There's probably more scoring.
The leaderboard
interruptions or more movement. But the fittest will be found, whether you have a small field or a large field. And I just think the larger field of play just gives that much more opportunity for people. Because 2022 was, elbow and biceps and
that was nuts.
We had a stroke, and I mean, it was just.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
It was not a good year for the 50-year-olds there. So it was a survival year.
It's
completely survival.
Quite literally,
just last man standing. Type of deal.
So it used to be this sort of next gen starting in a couple of weeks from now. It's exciting. Hopefully we can keep the momentum, maybe build like pickleball is doing. Because that was it. I was thinking maybe I just need to go pickleball.
I'm going to pickleball next.
I don't disagree. It's amazing. Pickleball, I played it one time and I was like, oh no, I can't do this too much. I kind of like it.
Wait, I'm pretty sure, Jason, if you play a second time, you're considered like a level 1 coach. So you can start coaching too.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Bob, so we're going to have, as we go into this year, we're going to have hundreds of additional athletes compared to what we've had, at least the past couple of years at the Games. You've been there 6 times. What are a handful of pieces of advice that you would give athletes that are aiming to go to the Games? Or what's the advice? Okay, maybe it's their first time going. Man, what's your advice to those guys? This is part of that new generation.
The ones that are trying to get there for the first time?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more opportunity now. That's for sure. And it still always comes down to the basics, especially with the open and the qualifier. It's nothing new. There's not a new formula to it. You need to move weight as quickly as possible. That's it. And I think for the older people, it's about, I look at like the champs, right? The people who are, are doing it and winning it. They're mobile. They can move. They have bounce to them. I think if I didn't find CrossFit, I would still be doing the same, bro split, and I'd probably be crunchy,
Right.
And you can be built, but if you can't move, what can you do with that build? I think keeping supple and mobile,
mobility.
Exactly. Sprinting, climbing, kind of active kind of things. Then you can hang in there. A lot of the lifting stuff is a lot of technique, right? And anybody can learn technique, but it's that. I think I'm built a little lower to the ground, so I think that gives me an advantage to be a little more nimble, as opposed to some bigger guys. But hey, we've seen Ron Matthews win it, and he's a big dude, and
Ron Ortiz.
Just by looking at him, you can tell he can move. For as large as a man he is, he can move, and so that's a tricky one because I think you got that or you don't. To be honest,
So what do you do? What do you do to stay mobile? As a 54-year-old, what's your mobility plan?
I just try to move every day. If I have like a day off, I was talking with a patient about this today, and most of them they don't know what I do. They think I just lift weights or something. And I had a guy come in. He's like, man, I used to be built like that. He was, I was like, yeah. He was, but then I stopped and I kind of lost it all. I'm like, and I got to thinking about it. I've been doing this since I was 14, I think, and I don't think I've taken a week off. And I'm 54, so 40 years. But it's not. It's a labor of love. Like I enjoy doing it, and I think after you've done it for a certain number now, that's your therapy too.
Yes.
It just really gives you.
it's more mental than anything else. It's your mental release.
Absolutely. And so if I'm sitting around, oh man, mentally I go to bad places. Physically, I just feel like I can't walk from here to there without making an old man sound. And I still make the old man sound, let's be honest.
But hey,
not going to deny that.
Makes us feel better.
I do too, guys. Absolutely.
But I would say honestly, okay, the games are a goal, right?
Right.
But okay, and that's great. I did this exercise with my kids a few years ago. Like, write down what is your goal for like school or for athletics or whatever, and write it down. And they wrote down their goal. One's like, oh, I want to go to states for wrestling or whatever it is. I'm like, that's great. You take that goal, crinkled it up, like, all right, that's out. What do you have to do between now and then to get that goal? And they'll write down like a game plan. I need to work out. I need to study. I need to. That's great. Take that, crumple it up, throw it out. What do you need to do today to achieve those goals? Now we're getting to the nitty gritty. And if you can follow that game plan, it's like, I need to get up early. I need to get my studies done. I need to eat whatever it is. And I would say the same thing for us, right? Like it's day in, day out. If you're looking at some long-term goal, you can be driving aimlessly without direction and you can get lost really fast. So don't worry about that. Just work backward and then start chipping. Okay. That's it.
Very good advice.
That's it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of folks that are looking at this year as a big opportunity.
Yeah,
they want to get to the floor and compete against you. That's the.
I'm out this year, I think. I think we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. That announcement might. This might be too tempting not to jump in.
See, it's in your blood now.
I guess so. Like I said, the whole team thing made all the difference for me.
And I think you've probably followed your advice to a good degree. Very small, workable, manageable goals.
Oh yeah.
You've watched your diet. Obviously, the mobility and moving. We should ask: have you followed different training programs over the?
I have.
Years?
For many years. I was a comp train guy, and that was my first introduction to like very specific progressions, right? And and I did that until they kind of changed things up a little bit a few years back, and kudos to Ben. He's creating a product or a business that can run without him, essentially. That's the goal, right? Yep. And so I tried Misfits for a little bit, and most recently I am doing Mayhem, but really I'm just doing their 60-minute version because I know what I need to work on, and so I guess I'm doing a little bit of hybrid of that. But I will say this, I think any program. I think there's a lot of good programs out there, but it's just the execution of it. Find something, stick to it, and let it play out. If you trust the source, and it's somewhat customizable, because every athlete's different. Every athlete has different goals. And Jason, you do programming, correct?
I do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so and I don't know how you conduct that, but do you look at like the individual and give them some guidance along those ways?
Great question. We have a community that allows, because we're not huge yet. We have a community that we use that creates a lot of dialogue, a lot of feedback, a lot of movement review, strategy, all that kind of stuff in a community setting. You're trying to create the sense that we're all very connected, even though we're all over the planet. And I think that's the best we can do. And because we don't have thousands of people, I can address individual questions as they come up. And I'm available to that because I love that kind of stuff. The more that I can connect with the people following the programming and see what's going on, whether they're here in town training with me or they're, again, distributed around the globe, I'm constantly looking for feedback on how is this being experienced by our end athletes, right? I'm following it to a T. I mean, I do exactly what it says. In fact, when I walk into the gym,
okay, I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, I do it. I go in and I actually have a couple of people I train with here in Birmingham, and I'll walk in, they're already warming up. I'm like, all right, guys, what are we doing today? Because I don't remember what I program. I program ahead of time. So they are like, oh, yeah, we're doing this. And I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, I remember that one. I remember programming that. So I'm what the Boulder athletes did today. We had some ring dips, wall walks, and thrusters, which was particularly gnarly on the triceps. I did that today.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that. Right?
Yeah. It's great. I mean, we are going to be sore. It compounded and compounded and compounded for 14 minutes of fun. But I get to.
I spent a lot of time lying on the floor between wall walks.
Listen, any wall walk in your future will be easier than that. So that's the whole goal is that those.
I love the wall
were some
walk.
hard.
Love the wall.
Those were some hard ones.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, and that's I think as a programmer, especially specific. And I'll stop talking about it, but being specific to Masters athletes and being a Masters athlete myself, I want to remain uninjured. I want to create a program that is specific to Masters needs and help them train at their highest level while minimizing the potential for injury. And that is a very careful balance because as Masters athletes, we have things we got to pay attention to that our 24-year-old counterparts, they don't have to worry about that yet. They should worry about some things, but we actually have to, or we're out. It takes us a lot longer to bounce back from injury than 24-year-olds that snap their Achilles or tear their lat, right? This kind of stuff can really take some time to come back from. So a lot of preventive medicine in there.
Interesting. I might have to check this out, Jason.
We'd love to have you. Just
they'll
from
have
the
a conversation offline.
Well, let's talk about it all right now, guys.
The one thing that early on, because 95% of the time I train in my garage.
Yes.
And so I used to appreciate following the leaderboard because I knew a lot of the guys I competed against and. I could, see their times and scores, and it just gave me something to shoot for. But at some point, a few years ago, I'm like, you know what? Doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. I guess I no longer need that stimulus to push.
Yeah.
And but it is always nice once in a while to just kind of check in.
See names.
Yeah,
yes, exactly. As opposed to being siloed out there with your own programming that might not be national or global or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're really then relegated to your competitive partners that are in the same gym and you hope that you're training at the same time.
Yeah.
You don't have that global kind of leaderboard to look at and also learn new names too, follow new names.
Well,
for sure.
And I think all of us, Bob, there were so many of us on CompTrain back in 2018, right? It's where I got to know all these guys. And then, 2019, I think we all sort of fluttered away. Or there's probably still some guys on CompTrain, but there was definitely a time there where we got to know everybody because that was our first Masters training leaderboard. We could see what other people were capable of. And it raised... And I used to look at the leaderboard. I try to win the leaderboard. Now I've let that go because I'm old. But
but you have other goals.
I have other goals,
but winning the daily work.
It is nice to see where sometimes I'm like, okay, I think I crushed this one. Let's see where I landed. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I beat this guy. A 41-year-old got me here. That makes sense, and and it'll give me that idea of like, one, what's possible, and two, of course, I've got those guys on the leaderboard where I know what they're capable of. They know what I'm capable of, so we could almost predict the outcome ahead of time. Like, you can almost just know.
Yeah, based on the movements and in history.
Yep.
Well, Bob, I've got one more thing here for you. We always do a little digging, little research here before we talk to a guest. For our listeners out there, if you want to go to YouTube and you want to put in 2017 Masters CrossFit Games or something like that, if you want to look at, I want to get your thoughts on this, because when you watch this, if you want to put in Diane and final couplet, it was the final event of the 2017 games. Okay. And I think it was Diane, you had a minute break and then you had the final couplet, which was rope climbs and thrusters.
Yeah.
Okay. So to the listeners, go back, take a look, watch that, watch the Diane part. And I don't know where that ranks in terms of highlights for you, but the trouble that I had with that is you were so fast that the camera didn't really know where to find you. And if you listen closely, they're yammering about whoever's in the middle lane, this, that, and the other, and suddenly you come tearing across the barbell. 2 minutes done, Diane, and I think it was a 4-minute cap. Oh, it was.
It gave me goosebumps.
But the high level of competition in the 45 to 49 category that year, those guys were working for almost 3.5 minutes, almost to the time cap, if you go back and you watch. So I just wish the camera would have found you a little bit earlier.
Don't quote me on this, but I could probably look this up. I have you, but I think I won the whole thing on that. Like at the A's.
Now that would be something. Yeah, you go back and take a look. I never compared or watched.
I did Diane like maybe 2 years prior to that, and I think like 137. I mean, it was moving, but it was set up differently. The barbell was right there by the wall. There's no transition.
Yeah, right? Here you had to roll the barbell.
Yeah, exactly. Here you had to roll, and so I think it was like 207 or something like that. So it was
still.
It was it was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was okay. That was the high. That was the game. Two. I think back to the different games. Probably two moments that stand out the most to me. That for sure, and then another one, which I came in dead last. It was like a snatch ladder, and the last barbell was like 205, and it was like dubs and snatches, and I couldn't get to 205. I just could not get it. And that's when, again, the camaraderie of CrossFit, all your buddies gather around you, they're cheering you on, they're cueing you up, pull on, and doing all the things. And I just loved that, And I remember, coming off the floor, and you guys both know Clint.
Yep.
Pat.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Smart ass. And he was like, man. He goes, I'll tell you, if I'm ever struggling on a weight and you son of bitches come around me and start cheering me on, I'll punch every single one in the night. I'm like, what are you talking about? That was awesome. He's like, that's bullshit. But I thought that was amazing. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you were the flip side of that. Okay.
Yeah. So I experienced both sides of them.
Double up.
Well, and I'll second that Rick just brought up the fact that you can dig into YouTube and watch some of those videos. Up until and through 2022, except for 2019, there was a live feed, and they're all on YouTube. You can go back and watch all of these events. And when Rick and I were at the Masters Fitness Collective, we were rooming together, and at night we would eat. We'd refuel for the next day of competition and watch old videos of the 2015, 2016, 2017 games. We'd watch. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was the last time Rick and I watched that. He was like, hey, watch Bob. Bob's going to just zoom right by here. Watch it. Yeah. Rick has studied this stuff.
Cool. Yeah. We are professor. Of course he has.
CrossFit
geeks. Are you kidding me? Turn on some old CrossFit stuff. It's so fun to watch. Yep. And when I was aspiring to be a games athlete, I would watch that stuff and just be in awe of what these guys could accomplish. And then, of course, down the road, I can go and find myself in those videos. And it's insane. Yep. It's really, really cool. So I hope that comes back in the future. But we'll cross that bridge. But Bob, we want to be respectful of your time. You've spent almost an hour with us, dude. Thank you so much. Your energy is magnetic. It's just great. Man. You're good, dude. You're a remarkable athlete. Hope to see you at the team event at the games this year, and then maybe the individual next year, 55 plus. Look out, because Bob's going to be training like a maniac.
Definitely, you'll see the individual next year.
Yep.
Hey guys, this was a lot of fun, and hey, I like how you guys are cutting edge with this thing. So a year down, right?
Year down. Yep.
We're
learning.
Keep going.
All right, man.
And I'm going to talk to you about Boulder.
And then there's Rick's dog. He's got an evil dog.
Yeah.
All right. And that wraps it up, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Masters in Motion podcast. We'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast app. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us reach more listeners and grow our Masters community. Until next time, get bolder, not older.